Sky Squad, we are back in the building and we have got to talk about love and marriage. DC's Monique Samuels and Chris Samuels, and they are opening up about these separation headlines that made the interwebs yesterday afternoon. So, for those of you guys who missed it, there were reports from People Magazine yesterday that basically indicated that Monique Samuels and Chris Samuels were indeed separating and living separate lives. I actually saw these headlines as well, and I reached out to Monique, to let her know what was going on with that, and I pretty much was going to just let her handle it however she chose to handle it or speak about it how she chose to speak about it since it was already such a public thing. We also had seen on, I think if you were watching the Bravo feeds from Bravocon, any of the Bravo channels, you would have heard Ashley Darby in the Real Housewives of Potomac panel. When asked if any of the cast had spoken with her, Ashley said that she went to lunch with Monique, and Monique was, going through her own personal journey. And then you would have heard Giselle mention that she saw Monique at the Woman King world premiere, which was held by the Motion Picture Association in conjunction with the studio, as well as, and this was at the African American History Museum. I was actually at that event as well. So I did indeed see some of what we'll talk about today, with Giselle indicating at BravoCon that Monique was escorted off of the red carpet, um, and not allowed to give interviews alongside her while she was being interviewed next to the Viola Davis. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that in just a bit as well. It's funny because I was at that event and I can tell you what I saw, but we'll get into that in just a bit. Anyway, so here's basically what's been going on. Afterwards, we saw Monique post online a video of her and Chris, along with a promotion for Mila Eve, and that she was still wearing her wedding ring. I actually reposted that because people have been tagging me in videos and stuff like that. And I was like, well, if this is her speaking, then this is it. I'm out last night. I have to pick up Bay from the airport, make sure Bay gets fed. And I don't really have time to deal with much else in the way of video content because I also had to get up this morning for Good Day DC. Watch the episodes from last night for Potomac. It's just been like boom, 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 boom. And again, I'm thinking, Monique is gonna handle this, and we'll hear all about what she has to say when she is able to say it. So notice when I get up this morning that there is a post on Monique's page. She's also posted this post, with her and Chris, and she said that she was going to be going live at 7:30 p.m. tonight. I'm giving you guys all of this because some people may not have been up on the timeline. Also, there was a moment during Watch What Happens Live, a live taping at BravoCon from last night, where Ashley mentioned that Chris and Monique had were taking a break or something like that. So we'll discuss all of that in context with what we have to discuss here right now. So, and we'll discuss how Giselle factors into this in just a bit as well. So Chris and Monique just literally took to YouTube Live on Monique's Tea with Monique page. And basically, they laid it out for us in this way. She said that in their joint statement, they said that they've been struggling in their marriage, as we did see on Love and Marriage DC. And that we saw some of those same things on Real Housewives of Potomac. But they say that they've never been afraid to be vulnerable, and they know that they're going to be judged for it, and it's fine. She said, though, that it's sad that there were people who were praising the fact that they were allegedly separating. And she understands that people had certain thoughts about the words separation because there was no further explanation. Because for a lot of people, separation signifies divorce. She says that they have not filed for separation. They have not filed for the divorce, and they are not separated to the extent of breaking up. So as they prepared to begin filming season 2, they were going through a process. Season 2 of Love and Marriage DC, they were going through a process to work on their personal issues and focus on themselves. She says that they have been spending some nights apart and are individually both in counseling. They're eating better, they're communicating better than they ever have in a long time, and they are trying to just get back to basics, but they are still together and they're not looking to divorce. They're just trying to be better for each other. She says that they are going back to basics, and instead of arguing and talking at each other, and that they were not connecting like they should be, this has allowed them to the opportunity to rediscover themselves. And this is what they told production and cast. It's the same conversation that she also had with Ashley Darby. And she does reiterate that none of this information coming out is Ashley Darby's fault. She then goes on to say People Magazine did not give them the opportunity to even start filming, and that they actually haven't started filming yet, and they are trying to figure out what they are going through themselves. She says that this is nothing different from many other married couples who have been married for a long time, and they're going to work through it, and even if they don't, it's going to be okay. And she says if they were getting separated, they would be making the statement and she would do it on her own platform. She does say that they felt an obligation and hopes to inspire other couples out there. And she does take aim at People Magazine again and say that they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They created an article without any confirmation. According to Monique, she alleges that they reached out to her publicist for a statement, and then they just said that they were going to run with the story anyway, even though her publicist said it wasn't true. She feels like it's unethical journalism because there was no legal filing for separation. She says at this point they can sit back and laugh, and she stopped doing interview with People Magazine quite some time ago after they kind of ripped apart her interview about her altercation with Candace to fit, I guess, whatever narrative the article was supposed to take on that subject. And she has not done an interview with them ever since. And she's actually turned down interviews with People Magazine to promote Love and Marriage DC. She does shout out Entertainment Tonight because she says they were the only outlet to give them the grace to tell the story in the chronological order and also confirm that Monique had indeed hopped on her Instagram to make a statement that they were still together and to announce that she would be going live on her YouTube channel. So she does really give them a great shout out. She says that Ashley, going back to that because someone else asked about it, I'm assuming in the chat from what I was watching because I'm sitting there making my notes. She says that she shared with Ashley the things that she's been going through, that they are both at peace and happy and still intimate. They do get into some intimate discussions and things like that. And they were at a point where they just didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. But she does love him enough to be with him or let him be happy enough to be by himself. He feels the same way, but he reiterates that he ain't going nowhere. Okay. So after they spent some time reconnecting together just recently, she says they reminisced about how it's taken them back to the beginning. Chris really, this portion of it was something that it really hit home with me because he really talked about working on himself, and he went to a conference with some other retired athletes, and it encouraged him to really wake up and start finding his passion. And he's been reminded to remember who he was. And he realized that he's been putting too much on her and she was burnt out and overwhelmed. He says when he left the conference, he felt like it saved his life, and he's invested in the conversations now with her and with the kids, and he feels more passionate. He's prayed with her, and he's prayed for a strong woman that held him down since he's been asleep/retired for the past 12 years. And then he put a stamp on what he provided. He put a stamp on him as a husband based on the fact that he was able to be a provider, but not him being present and providing input into the family. He said he was in a room with 20 other retired NFL players, and they were all trying to figure out what's next for them. and he's going to therapy. He's dealing with childhood trauma. And now he's told her he's wide awake and he's hungry with a new zest for life. And he says his wife has had his back and he should have never put all of that pressure on her. He does admit that he's been hurt by people that were close to him, and he's recently released that anger and forgiven those people. And he realized he was holding back in his marriage because his heart was scarred. And he's got a new counselor who's played in the NFL and putting those issues behind him so that he can be a better him. I think that's so important because we never really tend to think about what athletes go through when they retire. Like, that's got to be something mentally, a thing that's really got to take a toll on a person because they've spent so much of their life being in this space of, training, games, travel, and a regimented schedule and a life. And then you retire, and then what do you do next? So I thought that was very interesting. She says that going back to Ashley didn't tell a lie. She says the article was not written because of Ashley Darby. In fact, Ashley Darby texted her after the stuff started coming out, and she said it wasn't coming from her. And then when she went to watch What Happens Live and Andy asked her about it, she mentioned that they were, taking a break. She says that they are still in the marriage. People magazine had no information, and that some woman was allegedly calling around with information indicating that they were getting separated. She wondered why her house was still being shown on Potomac since this is season 7. Somebody, I guess, maybe had sent her a screenshot of an aerial view that they used in the show. I'm assuming that they're still allowed to use that type of footage, mostly because I think if you sign the contract at one point in time and they get that type of footage, or they could still use that type of footage. I'm not sure. I'm thinking that's really like a network thing. You can still use whatever footage you want to use. And she said that people were asking about Wrinkle Neck. I'm assuming she means Giselle. Okay. And apparently what Giselle said at Bravocon about Monique being escorted off the red carpet and not being allowed to do interviews while Giselle was being interviewed beside Viola Davis. She says that Monique says that someone needed to escort those cankles off the red carpet, and why, if she's being interviewed by Viola Davis, is she searching the crowd for her? She says she was indeed on the red carpet. Actually, that's where I ran into Monique, was on the red carpet. Well, not on the red carpet. It was like right at the red carpet. I wasn't trying to walk the red carpet. I was coming back from the bathroom when I ran into Monique and her team from the radio. I did happen to see when I passed by, I actually saw Giselle, and I'll pull that up right here. I'll share that screen with you guys as well. And if you go back on my page, you guys can see from the Woman King, this is me doing a little thing to Viola's. There you can see Giselle right there, and you can see Viola down at the end. So she did tell the truth about that. That was not a lie. But the funny thing about it was, this was me walking back in from after I used the restroom. I'm walking back into the theater, going back into my seats. Now, what you guys you can kind of barely see it here, is that the theater ends up getting extremely, extremely packed. And so at the point that it gets so packed, there's really no more seats left. So by the time Giselle ends up coming back into the theater, there's no seats for her. So I don't even know if she got a chance to sit down, which is, listen, I would have wanted everybody. I would have wished that everybody that had been there was able to sit and see the movie because it was amazing. But I don't even know that she was there to see the movie, because I saw her leave and I never saw her come back. But I did see Monique and her crew from the radio get seated because they did bring in extra seating. And so a lot of people who had been outside being interviewed were able to kind of come in and get seats as well. So I don't even know if Giselle stayed, but Monique indicates in her video that she doesn't think that Giselle stayed either. I actually saw them pass by each other and neither one of them said a thing to each other. So there was that. I was there. I saw that whole thing go down. and I can definitely tell you that one of them was in the theater and the other one was not. That doesn't mean that she didn't see the movie. I just didn't see her no more. Okay. And I definitely didn't see her when I left. Maybe she went to the overflow. I don't know. She does go on to say that she will also, her and Chris will be attending Portia's wedding as well. So they will be doing that whenever that is occurring. And, you know, whenever that extravaganza happens, hopefully we will have some details and information for you guys. So that's pretty much where they are. Based on what she said, I will place the link for her video down in the description down below. You guys can check it out for yourself. And she does, of course, have a Mila Eve Essentials discount code called Fact Check for those who want to purchase some products. All right. So that's it for this. I guess we'll see what happens with the two of them on Love and Marriage DC as the season ramps up into filming, hopefully. And there we have it. So if you guys would subscribe to the channel, I would love it. And I will catch you guys in the next video.